all eyes were on the TV, letting us know how bad the fire was going to be, and if we needed to evacuate for any reason. But everything was on the east side of Altadena. We had no power after midnight, and then so we couldn't rely on the television. So all we had to do was look out in the sky and look for the fire. Basically, it was super windy. It was like hurricane winds. Roof tiles were flying off the roof, debris, branches, everything was flying and falling. And even though I was in communication with a lot of our friends, we did not know the extent of how bad it was because, like I said, most of the focus was on the east side of Altadena. We all decided around 3 o'clock in the morning, we better get out of here. But initially I honestly thought that we were going to be coming back the next day. Basically, we left with the clothes on our backs, shoes on our feet, and a handful of personal effects that we could, thinking that again that we were going to come back the next day. But came back up at 7 o'clock in the morning, and that's when I saw my backyard was ablaze. Picked up my truck out on the front, on the street, and looked at our house one last time before it went up in flames. We split before it went up in flames, but it was so thick with smoke and wind and debris and embers. It was just a nightmare, absolutely a nightmare.
We happened to pull out the T a month or two, well, it was a couple months before, and it's been sitting at Lucky Shop. Thankfully, we got, at least you have your truck and that, to put a little smile on your face. But
oh man,
that's gonna be
huge smile,
right? In time of need, right?
No, you guys are you guys saved me. I'm telling you, that was something I was really passionate about. I can't tell you what a blessing you guys have been. Taking on that old tea bucket, and it's taking shape, and
it's going to be a tough road, but we're going to be here for you, and everybody that watches and everybody that supports you, loves you and Yipsy, and we got your back.
Oh man,
it's going to be a great road.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
You'll be bigger and better.
We're right at the entrance of what used to be our garage.
Yeah.
Garage is 110 feet long, packed with pretty cool stuff. And the actual car was in there too. Luckily, we got that out, and that would have been 3 weeks later. That would have been inside this garage. Luckily, there was a bunch of cool stuff I got from the family that had to be burned up, like the original plaque. But the kid that built it at the time, 18-year-old Bill Lund, had a gas pedal that was like weighed. It had to be 10 or 15 pounds. It was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. I wanted to save that because it was such a cool piece.
Let's go find what we can find.
Okay. Bingo.
Windshield frames.
Windshield frames. And I think those are the top bows.
Yeah, there's another top bow.
This kid I got from Dave Sutton.
All right.
Here's my oogle horns I had.
Oh yeah, oogle horns.
Oh, this side right here was all tea.
So, last time you saw that gas pedal, do you think it was over here somewhere?
I'm pretty sure. I would look at these right here. Look what I found. The original stanchions.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good shape, man, because, I have not seen a pair of these. It's short ones like this.
Yeah, that's crazy. And they're probably fine.
Oh, man.
Check it out.
I'm so stoked.
That's air cleaner.
Air cleaner.
Oh, yeah. Where'd you look
Bingo.
for that?
Wow. Oh, these are wiper modes. Gas pedals got to be around here somewhere.
Oh, found your gun.
Oh, shit. The spring helpers.
These are crazy. The fender guards. Oh, these are the original ones.
Yeah.
Oh, these are salvageable.
Oh, yeah, they are.
Here they are. Here's the other one.
Wow.
That one's a little warped, the bar, but that all could be fixed.
Look at these. I got these three.
You got a lot of fenders. You're wealthy in fenders. These are not that bad. Still no infamous gas pedal.
Yep.
Mirror for a visor mirror. Oh, baby! There you go. That thing is not burning up ever.
Did I lie? How much does some this weigh?
Wow, I mean, that thing could, we found it. Awesome. It was in this pile. Right where you left it.
This is one of the few pieces we're going to restore here.
Yeah.
Bringing this back for sure. He's my best friend right here, Steve Butcher, and he's, Funky Junk Farms. But I tell you, he said something to me that meant so much to me. We were talking about hot rods and T-buckets and drag cars, this, that, and the other. And we were talking about the T-bucket, and he's always said, man, I'm not trying to burst your bubble or anything like that, but I really don't like them. Cause he's been around since the old days. He's like a walking history book of drag racing and hot rods. I said, what do you mean? He said, those things were like cartoon cars. I said, excuse me?
Yours especially.
Those are like cartoon cars. We mean cartoon cars. I said, dude, they're not real drag cars. That's something like Herman Munster would drive.
Damn, he's right.
And I'm like, right. Oh my God. Thank you so much for saying that, brother. You make me feel so good. It's been a hell of a loss, as you can probably imagine. We're in our mid-60s. We are going to rebuild, try and take it all in, little at a time. My wife is a collector and had a lifelong collection of vintage clothing and jewelry and whatnot. So she's scavenging through the yard to see what she can, salvage. There's a bunch of stuff we've salvaged that we'll use for the rebuild. And luckily, you guys saved the T-bucket. A lot of the stuff I got from the original owners of the car were lost in the fire. But got a car still, so I'm excited about that.
When he first got the car, he had it for about a year before we brought it over here to the shop. And when he first got the car, he started finding things that he wanted to put on the car. He started personalizing it right away. And after we got the car here to the shop, one of the first things we did is we yanked the radiator, the 32 shell, and Johnny got a Model T radiator, and we got the shell, and he had a buddy of his paint them up. So today, we are going to get started on the little Funky T. We're going to start taking some stuff apart. We're not going to rebuild the whole thing, but we're going to go through and we're going to change some stuff and make some stuff safer from the way it was built. Getting a little mock-up with this grill. Johnny wanted to put the original T shell back on and radiator. Take that 32 shell off. So I got to redo the mounts. But that's about the height. Oh, looks pretty cool. Gives it that way more Model T-ish look. I can still utilize the radiator brackets that they molded into this frame. I just have to put tabs on them and cut them down about 4 inches. Whipped up a couple of these little brackets, lower radiator brackets they would be. And there it is, roughly. Just gotta mount some bolts into it, drill some holes. I used the original straps that they'd welded and molded in to go back up to the radiator. I like it better than the 32 shell on there.
32 grill was in beautiful condition, and I know people chop them down and shorten them and all that kind of stuff, but I wanted a Model T. I just love the Model T grill. I know it's not as cool looking, it's not as streamlined or anything like that, but I wanted it to look like a real Model T.
I've seen some weird shit before, but this is probably one of the weirdest. So this was made, spins freely, and then the steering nut was on top of it with flaps folded over. Let's see if I can fold them. It's really thin galvanized metal, so that nut wouldn't spin off, all right? But since that thing spins freely anyway, it's almost like it was done for to pass tech as a steering wheel lock, so he could drag race this thing. It literally was doing nothing. So that's only part of the weird part. It looks like this handmade steering wheel, 1/4-inch plate, was threaded onto the steering column. I can't get it off because it seems to have worn a little groove in there. So I'm probably going to have to cut it off if I'm going to try to save this shaft in there, which I don't think we're going to reuse anyway, but I don't want to destroy it just because. So now I've clocked the wheel all the way to the left. To the left. And I'm trying to unthread the wheel that way. And I still have the same amount of play in there, but I cannot unthread it. And then the stupid wheel would not lift off of the shaft. And I was like, what the? Like, I couldn't figure it out for the life of me. All right, I'm gonna use this hole saw. Trying not to destroy the threads entirely. I can see Braze back here. Oh, maybe I do. There's a hole down here. Aha. I see it. There's a motherfucking set screw in there. Had I known that before I started drilling, that'd have been a lot easier. So long and short, after screwing around with this stupid thing for a while, I looked underneath and there was bolts, screws underneath holding it on that I would have just never guessed. It was just a mind-numbing thing.
You know, I was cruising through Facebook and hit the Traditional Hot Rods Facebook page, and a guy named Ron Garrett posted this original barn find, fresh out of a 58-year storage tea bucket. Fell in love with it right away. The color, the gold, the interior, the green on the outside, all that. I've always had a dream of having a tea bucket, but I wanted my Model T to look like an old man stuffed a V8 into an original looking Model T. So I've always wanted a traditional looking Model T, but with a updated motor in it. So that fit the bill right away.
The steering box removal was major pain in the ass for the simple fact that it came right off, but in order to get a new box on there to put F100 box in, he has this, he home built this giant 3/8 plate scatter shield. In case you guys are ever wondering what a 50s scatter shield looks like, I was just fighting with this car to get it out. Looks like 3/8 plate. I was trying to torch off this driver's side wing with my plasma, and I just there was no room. I couldn't get it. And he put these giant gusset plates behind and what looks like some really gnarly stick welds. This whole thing is just put together, stick weld. Of course, back in the 50s, I get it. But anyway, I'm gonna cut this wing off here, put a nice clean cut, clean it up, and then the steering box will fit in its original, well, not original, but in the location where it's supposed to be anyhow. The drag racing rules, they probably said you need a scatter shield, and being an inventive kid that he was, he grabbed a torch and started heating up some 3/8 plate, and he made this crazy 70-pound scatter shield cover. It's funny because you stare at this thing in the car, and even though this looks normal, it kind of looked better with the scatter shield in there. The linkage was literally a pin fit. was pin fit into the hole. There was no clamp holding it on or nothing. It was just kind of a trust the firewall linkage. Anyway, I had to pull the headers off this side. I got everything cut off that was blocking where the steering box has got to go. I'm putting the steering box in a normal location, F100 box, and it'll come up with a little bit of an angle. Unlike the bus driver tees, it'll be a little bit better to fit into, get easier to get into, and it'll work out pretty good. So this was the piece I cut out. So the whole thing's massive, and I had to take the motor mounts off and lower the motor for the box to be able to fit in, because I just couldn't manipulate it enough. So I had to drop the motor down about 2 or 3 inches to squeeze that F100 box in. So it's in there tight. Like, you know, if you were building the car, you would have put the steering box in well before the motor, but carbs are rebuilt. They look beautiful. They're gonna go on. I'll get the linkage hooked up and we'll get this thing fired up. Hopefully it's a runner. We don't really even know yet. We'll find out pretty quickly though. So I also got all the parts to rebuild the brakes in the rear end. It's an Olds rear end. It has 44 front brakes. I'll pull those apart and re-put new cylinders and clean up the lines and blow them out and all that stuff.
I actually wanted the steering wheel to be everything to look like a Model T, literally. The steering column, the steering wheel, all that stuff. Looking at all the old hot rod magazines, that's the only thing I could rely on, or the 50s and 60s hot rod magazines. And saw that guys were converting the original Model T steering columns and steering wheel and making it work.
All right, got a few things going on today. Haven't been filming too much like I should be, but we're gonna take this this Model T column. We're going to utilize it right here. A little bit of angle on the steering column here. Johnny wanted to use all these Model T parts, original Model T column parts. Never taken one apart, and it's got all these gear sets in it for the wheel. Gutted that box out, and I then took an original column, which is oval shaped, and the brass fittings that go around that. I adapted all that stuff, made it work with bearings and a shaft to go through it. He loved the old steering column, the Model T steering column, so I adapted it to this F100. And then I got this original column. I still have to cut it and weld the top. This is gonna move, but I think it's too long. I think that we need to probably section it about 3 inches right here, and drop it back a little bit and down to get a little bit more out of the way. You're fabricating stuff and building stuff. You can put a lot of work into it, and that's kind of what it felt like to me, that I was doing all this stuff to create this look. And when it was all said and done, I actually really liked it, and I was excited for Johnny to come over and look at it, and he's like, yeah, okay. He wasn't vibing with it. So sometimes you go through some build phases where you do this stuff and it just doesn't work for whatever reason. I mean, I've done stuff, I'm sure a lot of guys have, that you build something and you go, yeah, no, I don't like it. So Johnny wanted to change it to a normal column, 1.5 inch column. I machined up a fitting to fit into an 1.5 inch tube and still work with all of that original Model T upper brass box that's now just empty, no gears in it or anything. It actually looks pretty cool because the Model T steering wheel kind of drapes over it, but you can still see it in there. So I polished it up and we finished it out that way, and it looks pretty cool. You saw in the first video when we picked up the car from Johnny's house, one of my main things I wanted to do was just fire up that motor before we did anything else. And we got it back here to the shop, and that was my first plan of attack. So I started Looking under the dash, I can only say that there was probably 40 wires going different directions underneath that dash. Without chasing every wire, I had no idea what was going on, where anything was going. I told Johnny, I said, look, this thing needs to be rewired before we can start it.
Initially, it was all about just getting it started, right? And then you go to the dash, and the wires were insane, and the flooring was insane, and everything was weird. So it's like, man, I don't want to add to the madness. The dash was pretty crude, the original dash, but it had these mint condition Stewart Warder green light marine gauges, and it was pretty awesome. But the dash was pretty cheesy, and I don't have perfect eyesight, but I can barely see them. So I wanted to get bigger gauges. But then as I was looking through the magazines, I said, oh my God, I need a wood dash.
We took out the old Model T dash that was just hacked up. Radio has cut a radio into it and all this stuff. And you know, the Model T dash is only this big to begin with. I gutted all the wires out and just started yanking stuff out and start over fresh.
Always being helpful, decided to buy a dash. We got it. I was so excited. I cleaned it up. I think it was like a week and a half before I was able to get over here to show Lucky. So it was all bitching by the time I got here. And of course, the son of a bitch didn't fit. It was too big.
Damn thing was like 4 inches too wide. And there was no way I could modify it, or cut it in half. And, you know, I tried to think of all kinds of things to do. You know, this isn't rocket science for me. I'm a woodworker also. So I was like, I'll just build one.
But he actually whipped out the dash in like 3 days. So he really kind of blew my mind on that one. But that's kind of the story on the dash.
And then as we went on, there was other things, brakes and stuff. We just got into doing other things, and the wiring got bypassed. It became less important to fire up that motor right away.
The beautiful part about it is that my challenge was try to find everything that was either new old stock or original from like pre-1960, 60s, mid 60s to on back. And so that's been fun. And then also, I can bring something to Lucky that he may disagree with, but he's very understanding, surprisingly. As gruff as the exterior that he has, but he's been very understanding about when I bring something. He always said, hey man, it's your car. If you don't like it after it's put on, you can change it later or whatever. I love that attitude. And I appreciate that actually too, so.
Once again, thank you for coming to our theater tonight. Have an enjoyable evening.